I'm Jennifer Moore, and today we're going to use Google's Nik tools to convert this image I have from Athens into a black and white. Now, the reason we're choosing black and white for this is because you can see it's pretty flat color-wise. There's not a whole lot of distinction in it, and it's got that dead winter sky in it. And I think that if we use black and white, we can bring out more of the textures, a little more depth here in the center in the forest area, and maybe even more distinction in those houses, and I think we'll have a better effect. I also just think black and white is going to go well with the whole concept of ancient buildings. It's pretty timeless. Now, I'm going to launch Nik from inside Photoshop. You can launch it directly by itself, but with some of the Nik tools, you get some good effects if you're able to keep it in Photoshop because you can treat each of those changes as a mask. For this one, we don't even need to duplicate our base layer because it's going to do that for us when we launch the tool. So we're going to go down, hit Silver Efex Pro, and it's just going to take a second to launch that interface for us. Here we go. When it opens up, it's usually going to pick just the neutral one to apply to it. But I've got some favorites of mine that I like. So if you look, there's 38 presets that come with the tool. I think you can download more online. If there's one that you really like, if you click the star button next to it, then it will automatically add it into your favorites so you can get to it quicker next time. There's a few that I use over and over, and I have them here. So looking at this, my first instinct was to choose full contrast and structure because I wanted to bring out as much depth as possible. But the problem with picking this is that it's really accentuating one of the negative factors of this photo, and that's that bright white streak that's going through the city. So instead, we're going to go ahead and try and use a fine art process on it. It looks flatter overall, but I'm confident with some control points and global adjustments that we can actually bring the depth I want back in. So now that we're happy, I'm going to go ahead and hide those presets, give us more room to work with. Now over here in the adjustment area, you're going to see that by default, the global adjustments are just brightness, contrast, and structure, which it's a good place to start, but I've found that inside this tool, you have the best level of control if you expand each of those and work in the sub-sliders. Now we're going to start in contrast because that's going to help us bring out a lot of that depth. And because we also want to make sure we have as full a range of black and white as we can. So if we come down and we look at that histogram, we're going to see that we don't have anything that's pure black, and we don't have anything that's pure white. So we've got a lot of missing range in there. So we're going to start and we're going to work on moving a little bit toward the white end by amplifying those whites a little. Now we're going to see as we do this that it's bringing back some of that negative white streak effect, but we're going to be able to fix that in a little bit. So we're not going to stress over that yet. And we're also going to amplify our blacks just a bit. So now we're getting a little closer to hitting both ends of that spectrum. For brightness, I found that usually the flattest area of a black and white conversion is in the midtone region. So sometimes you might want to play with changing the brightness on those midtones, and you'll see when we slide that it can actually make pretty dramatic effects all over. So we just want to put a slight tweak on that right there in the middle. And then we're going to use one of my favorite features inside Silver Efex, and we're going to adjust the structure. Structure is a play on contrast that really helps you bring out the details and textures in an image. So again, we're going to start with midtones. And when we turn up that structure, just watch how the forest changes there. And we can also do it in shadow. We can do it across the way. We could do it to everything as a whole, and I think it would actually be okay in this photo. Now we're going to go down. I want to switch back over to loop view, but you'll see when we're hovering over it that you've got these numbers 0 through 10. This is the phase system. It lets you make sure that you're covering the full spectrum of colors. So anything that's in the 0, you'll see when we can click on it and leave it on there. You see those yellow spots are all zeros. That means if you were to print this, that those areas would be solid ink. They would be pure black with no detail. So you don't want too much of that in most images, but having a little bit of it there is actually good to let your eye know where the black lists on that scale. Now on the other end of the spectrum, we have the pure white. So this is area that would just be paper showing through, no ink at all. So we're also going to click on that and leave that on. We want to hover throughout here, make sure, let's look in some of these really bright areas. That's where you can see that those highlights are showing up, and we've lost all of our detail there, which isn't the greatest thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use control points to recover some of that detail. Now, if you want to lock the loop and histogram in, on a Mac, you're going to do a 2-finger click on your touchpad. On a PC, I believe it's a right click. So we've locked that in, and now we want to use some control points. So first, let me shrink those global adjustments, and we're going to go to the control point area. And what this does is it creates a little mask. And you'll see in the loop where I'm over that, you can see the crosshairs right where I'm dropping this. And you want to pay attention to where you drop it because the pixels closest to it are going to be the ones that are affected most. So we're going to get right over where I've got those blown highlights. The top handle lets you adjust the size. So you'll see that's a pretty big range. All I really want to affect is that bright white streak that's distracting. So we're going to make this smaller. And we're also going to click this little down arrow symbol to expand this and get more options. So we've got too many whites. A good way to fix that is to send the amplify white slider into the negative range. So as we do that, you can watch and see that we've actually got a smaller area now that's covered with those little blue hashes. So we can even turn it down even more if we want. And we can also come at it from the other direction and amplify the blacks as well. I'm going to turn up our contrast there. In addition to that, we have the option of just trying to bring back some structure if we want. But structure can also introduce more white, so we want to be subtle with that. And we could always just adjust the brightness there. When you look at that, I think that's actually a pretty good toning down. We're not going to get all of it out of there. So we've got it set. What I want to do is apply this to all of the white area. So we're going to go, you can duplicate it by clicking the copy button over here, or you can also just do a Command-C, Command-V, or Control-C, Control-V on the PC. And then wherever you click next, it's going to apply the same set of adjustments. And so we can just keep pasting those adjustments all along this nasty white streak. There we go. Now, we have the ability to change any of these individually, but if we want to make sure we're always changing them all together, you can actually group them. So if we click the first one, hold Shift, go down and click the bottom one, and you'll see this button that almost looks like stars in a constellation. Well, when you click that, it groups them all together. We can turn it off or on across the board. And now you'll see that we've lost the drop down on all those little dots, and it's given it just on the first one. And any change that we make here will be applied across the board to it. Now, the next area that I want to look at is the area where the city meets the mountain meets the sky. It's really kind of flat. I'd like just a little bit more distinction there. So again, we're going to use control points for that. We're going to go, and I think I want to put that control point and set it right on the line between the edge of the city and the mountain. And we're going to, again, make the circle much smaller and then expand it out. And for this one, we're going to take really the same approach we did before. I'm going to start by amplifying the blacks there and see if I can bring out some more detail. And then I'm also going to try and adjust the structure in that area. Maybe we also need to bring some more whites back in. It's pretty dark. You might notice when we're hovering over this SC, what that lets you do is add the color back inside the whole area of the circle. So if you want to get tricky and have some selective color, it's a quick way to do it. Now, I think this has helped some, but you know what, let's just try brightness there. No, I don't like that at all. So we're not going to do that. Maybe just a little more. There we go. So we've got that. I like the way it looks. So again, we're just going to do the copy paste method to apply this all across the way. Now you'll notice I'm not worrying about being too precise in placing a distance between these. And really you don't need to be, because what happens is that the pixels always take the rules from the circle that's closest to them. So if you have overlapping circles, it's going to take the one that has the closest radius to it. And since we are grouping all of these mountain ones together and adjusting them in unison, it's not really going to matter. So I don't have to be too precise about it, which makes it nice and quick. So there we go. And again, I'm going to want to adjust them all together if I make any changes. So I'm going to group them. Now, any changes we apply, again, look at it all. Now, the only other place I really want to look is I would like to check out this temple in the center. This is the Temple of Hephaestus, and it is one of the best preserved temples in Greece. Looking at it, it looks like a little mini Parthenon. Bombs and never hit it and knocked it down. So we're going to click to lock that into the loop so we can see what's going on there. And we're going to make one more control point. And I want to make sure that I put it on one of the white areas there, so we make sure we're affecting the marble. And I think what I want to do is just make sure that I have enough brightness here that it's drawing your eye instead of that nasty white streak above. And so we can do a little bit of brightness. I think I just want to amplify my whites, and we're going to watch it and make sure we don't blow it out as we're doing this. So you can see we're just barely getting a little bit of white. I think that's fine. But I think we want to make sure that we're really amping the structure there too. So a little more emphasis on that. It's some great detail out there. In fact, you can see all these little images that are still carved in the marble. Those all used to actually be painted in colors back in the day. So there you go. I'm kind of happy with that one. I'm still not sure about this area. It still seems a little bright to me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to adjust it just a little more. I'm just going to turn down the brightness a little bit more across it. Now, I'm not sure, that one might be too dark. If I want to ungroup it, I can come here and ungroup that one. And I can, maybe I just don't have this one placed on just the right spot. I think I have it sitting there in the dark. Yes, I did have it sitting in the dark, and we don't want it on the dark. We want it on one of these white structures. So I'm going to move that. I think it fixed it back. Now I'm going to go ahead and group them back together. There we go. I think that's probably as balanced as we're going to get. So I'm going to say I'm happy with that. There are a number of other adjustments you can do inside here. You can put color filters on it, change a lot of things about the film, put some nice borders on it. I really like some of the borders that they use, but I believe with this image, I want to do some more cropping. So you don't want to apply any borders to it yet. And I'll just take care of that with a vignette over in Lightroom if I want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button and let it pop us back out to Photoshop. There we go. And now if we want to see the nice before and after of our image, you can come in here. There's the color. Still kind of looks flat and yucky. Here's the nice detailed version. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with this.